Hi, welcome to this week's webinar. With me, I've got the awesome Katie Byrne-Plowman from KT Consultancy. Hi, Katie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for joining us. You have many hats. So you are KT Consultancy, you do work with the Sustainable Wellness Group, and also you're ambassador for the UK for World Wellness Weekend. Is there anything I've missed?
I've just joined the task force for the Sustainable Beauty Coalition as well. So that keeps me
There we go.
busy.
I knew I'd missed something.
It's very new. It's very new. So yeah, I like I say, I've only been on about 6 weeks, so can't
Amazing.
complain on that.
They've done loads. I've seen loads happening with the British Beauty Council
Yeah.
on that coalition group. It's moving forward, isn't it? Like cleaning up the
Mm.
beauty industry and things. So works
Yeah.
super well. So we are here doing compliance through connection, elevating your experiences in 5 steps. So I will hand over to you, Katie, and I've got some questions as we go.
Thank you. I'll give you a bit of, I suppose, background as to what my thought process is around the document, just so if you think of any additional questions or anything else you want to throw in there, you can do. But
Super.
basically, it comes from a background of me working within the spa and wellness sector. You know quite a lot about me anyway, but I've been doing this for the best part of 25 years within the spa and wellness sector itself, and probably the last 10 to 15 years I've primarily been within wellness, hospitality, and sustainability internationally, and that kind of opened my eyes up really and into this whole compliance element.
Mm,
I'm quite a structured person, and I like processes, but I also know that you need to be able to flex, and there's got to be some kind of human connection involved
yeah.
in it. However, when I first started doing all of these bits and pieces, as you grow through your managerial career, that wasn't exactly how I operated. So you
We're
kind of live and learn.
creatives, aren't we? We're
You live and
creatives by
learn as you
nature.
go along. Yeah, exactly. Make the mistakes and then you can share them with everyone else. Um,
Yes.
but, uh, but yeah, and so now I've kind of come up with this concept or a way of working that I feel comfortable with, which is around slow, regenerative wellness. And it kind of fits around the design of spaces and systems, but that also have that not just the commercial aspect, but that human connection involved as well. And everything comes from a people and systems perspective, not just one or the other. So it helps protect your operational integrity, really. So that's how I've built this presentation, I suppose, and the supporting documents that I'll give to you at the end for you
Thank
to share
you.
with everyone. But that's, yeah, a little bit around the place that it and the space that it's come from.
Perfect. And then Katie, you often say that compliance doesn't need to feel clinical. So how can operators make standards feel more human?
So compliance should be around, well, so compliance should be a confidence tool. That's the first thing, and not a control tool, which is where I think a lot of people go wrong, and I most certainly did early on in my career. Um, so I feel like every part of the journey and the business operations, whether that's the check-in flow, how much linen you're gonna use, your health and safety,
Mm,
sustainability practices, what product houses you're gonna work with, it literally covers everything. Every part of your business has some form of compliance element behind it. And the issue isn't always the framework or that compliance framework, it's how we utilize it and how it's used internally. So we tend to find a lot of audits are designed to when audits are designed to identify both the strengths and the risk areas, you tend
mm,
to create more momentum behind that process and behind the audit rather than people just being scared and see it like fear mongering of the audit
yeah.
process. And I think that if you see compliance as a rhythm behind the performance, it keeps it quietly steady and keeps the quality there, whilst allowing for people to put their own perspective, their own local expression if you're in different regions, or for them to be more authentic with how they deliver that that compliance, whatever it is. So yeah, I feel like structure keeps it held and formatted, but it still needs to be able to be styled and flex however that individual or that local site, particularly when you're in multi-site operations, it still needs to have that flexibility, and that's how compliance builds confidence, and then that confidence then returns in emotional engagement and ROI. So it throws the two together rather than it always being, like I say, just a real rigid structure. That answers the
Yeah, I
question.
think I think if yeah, I think because if you don't have the compliance part in the background and there is no structure, I mean, people enjoy the creative bit, but they need to know what underpins that, don't they? You know, it's like you don't just go, "Hey, let's go and do a facial." Underneath that, you have your protocol, which is your
Yeah,
compliance bit, don't you? These are the depends on how strict that is, whether it's down to the moves you make or it's these 10 products in this
yeah,
order. You everything still needs to have something underpinning it. Otherwise, we would be crazy. Like everyone would be doing a multitude of different things in different times in different ways. But I like the fact that you've put the twist on it that it's building consistency and it's confidence rather than it feeling like a chore and a
yeah,
negative because
yeah. And
it
I
can
think
be a bit like that.
people always link compliance, because it's obviously quite a formal word, to health and safety, don't they, or sustainability
Yes.
metrics or those sort of things. But it spans out if you really think about it, even if it's not a formal piece of paper or a document that you've got. Compliance is everywhere. You're still told and guided or coached, whichever way people kind of conduct themselves in a way of presenting things or doing things when you're in the workplace, aren't you? So yeah,
Yeah, we don't want them freestyling all over the place. Is
I mean,
basically
you
what we're
can.
saying. We want some organization and compliance. So I think the thing that we're noticing as well with sort of so much data, how do you make personalization genuine and scalable? So how can you use compliance, I guess, to do that?
The key with data is making the data useful, and not just be decorative or be there and not utilized. So gathering good data, and finding the gaps in value-led data, which tends to be the bit that everyone forgets about.
Mm,
Um, so using using a good CRM or AI is massive at the moment, and it's going to continue to grow. So use AI
yeah.
supported systems that can surface the small wins, but give high impact detail back to you. So things that will help deliver guest preferences, visit patterns, sentiment tone, things that the team then can act on really naturally off the back end of that data.
Mm,
These systems kind of serve you more as a conversation, or prompt to a conversation, should I say? And then
yeah.
your team, if you're talking about therapists, but your front of house team, it can be anybody, can then use that prompt to then deliver and put their kind of twist on it. There shouldn't be such a regimented script or a
Mm,
dictatorship as to how that's done. It's just there as a tool to guide and support the operational teams. Um, and yeah, I feel like if you, as an example, you could introduce experience triggers onto your software or your booking system platforms, to like say prompt your team around a visit that you're if you did that every time someone came in for a visit for every single
mm,
customer, then when they come back you start to build that data up, and but you're monitoring things like preferential treatment that they like, what their favorite
mm,
things are,
yeah.
things that are personal to them, you're not your normal like KPI metrics. So what temperature did they like the room, what music do they like, what's their favorite tea, what's their preference of a certain thing that you're doing in that treatment, make
Yeah.
what conversation did you have if they've just been on holiday, those sorts of things that are really personal to that individual. And I think that data working as an indicator where the technology can kind of enhance the awareness whilst not replacing that connectivity, and the connection piece from the actual individual themselves. And when you do that, it creates personalization but with purpose, and that's what makes it measurable,
Mm,
because you can actually put KPIs behind that. with your net promoter scores and your bits and pieces,
Yeah.
like similar to what you would do with your normal KPIs, but it's coming from a values-led or a purpose-led perspective rather than just monetary or commercial.
And I think that's why you need these systems in place, isn't it? Because if you don't have a compliance system where you say you gather this data, you assign it against a guest, you're losing the ability to do this, turning your data into an experience, aren't you? If you're just like, well, the guest comes, the guest goes. Actually, no, part of your compliance and your process is that you capture this data, it goes into the system so that next time you, like you say, you provide value, you improve your net promoter score, and that then has a commercial ROI. It's not a visible money in
Yeah,
your hand one, but it builds up your brand, doesn't it? So you
yeah,
need all of that lined up to make this successful.
exactly. And some of it falls back into the traditional metrics that we use, the KPIs, like your rebooking, your review rates, all of those things, because naturally, the more valued someone feels, the more they're going to celebrate your brand, revisit all of the usual stuff that we would expect. So it does also translate into your other KPIs, but you can add new KPIs in that come off the back end of the new data that you're collecting.
And I think KPIs, I'm a big fan of the old KPIs. So add to those even more because it just helps you, doesn't it? You can then be genuinely subjective about what's happening in your business.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
so
coming from your
not be
data in the past.
subjective. You can be database, not you're not going to be subjective. But so how can then leaders protect team energy without losing productivity? Is there a way that we can then turn this using compliance as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things is to remember that operational efficiency and staff wellness or well-being aren't opposites. They depend on each other and they work very closely together. So don't treat them as separate things. For example, when scheduling, which is obviously always a hot topic internally,
Yes.
um, rest, building in that rest and rhythm as part of your risk management strategy, and putting like intentional pacing, blocks in, or however
Yeah.
you want to do it. But putting those things in place protects the quality of the product, the service, and the brand. So it's not always about slowing down. It's about removing the friction so that performance can be steady, even through those really busy peak, sides of the business, rather than just when you're kind of plodding along. And understanding, I suppose, that stability shows in the numbers when you do that, because you'll have lower turnover, your retention will be higher, you'll have fewer errors, your compliance scores will naturally be higher. So that's that kind of human-centered framework being built into your normal frameworks.
Yeah.
Doesn't result in you being soft. It just means you're being sustainable and protecting yourself for the future.
I think also you need that balance, don't you? When sometimes when you're putting processes in place, you want to make sure that the spa doesn't feel like a machine as
Yeah,
well. So you can be very like compliance process. This is what we're going to do, tick, tick, tick. But actually, if you can bring those softer elements back in that actually, systems, as you say here, that protect people, you're actually turning those sort of more formal elements and you're making sure that they're very human centric as well and they're very aware, so you're not just going right, yield diary, you're going actually let's make sure we're
yeah.
not too process orientated and all of that as well.
Yeah, and it's about it having like I said earlier, a rhythm behind it so that it is natural and it's not, you don't go into a place and think, oh, I've been into, your brand site A and I've been into your brand site B, and it's just very robotic. Each brand can have their own identity whilst also sticking to a framework, um and that normally comes from the team, and all of this contributes to that. If they feel valued, if they feel looked after, if they aren't burnt out, those sorts of things.
And then, so how do you build this emotional awareness into operating procedures that are already detailed? Because that's got to be a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? When you're coming in as a spa manager and you kind of see this happening and you want to make the changes.
Yeah, it's about, well, for me, I've always baked them into like observational points within the existing templates. I don't do anything separate. You don't want two lots of everything. So when you're using your SOPs, they already cover the logistics, don't they? You've got all your hygiene, your timings, your, I don't know, whatever the process is. So it's within that kind of adding in that emotional part and the human part. So making sure that that is built into those documents as well. So for example, you could add something in around observe guest comfort before proceeding, confirm consent before touch, observe body temperature, things that you don't, well, you'd hope people do automatically, but some people don't. So it's putting those prompts in place as you would any other like more formal structure, and that kind of formalizes the attentiveness without adding any additional time, adding any additional cost, and it allows for you to be able to catch things early so that the team or the place have time to adapt, react, change the situation, you know, alter the space, do whatever they need to do to make sure that everything runs smoothly and you don't end up with a complaint or anything at the other end.
Exactly. We don't want those.
No, I mean, there's a group that put in something called, I'll put in who they were, can't think off the top of my head, but they put in something called a pause and scan
Okay.
before any service ever happened with with the customer. So, and that could be in the food and beverage department, it could have been in the spa department, it didn't matter where they were situated. And in doing, just making their team and as part of their processes doing the pause and scan before starting service, they reduced their guest complaints, their net promoter scores went up, but the culture and the communication internally also elevated, and they noticed a change and a more positive shift
Wow.
internally in, within themselves. So I think little things like that, it doesn't always have to be massive changes. It's sometimes the simple and the quick wins, but that gives you an example of how emotional ROI can be measured, and it can be repeatable and it can be linked to compliance. But it keeps that quality control, but from an emotional level rather than just being a circumstantial level. So, and it
Yeah,
keeps,
rather than just
yeah,
doing something,
yeah,
it's actually checking back in, isn't it? It's making sure that
yeah,
you're completing that feedback loop. Is everything okay? Grabbing
yeah,
anything, like you say, before they complain, because complaint handling is
ma-
draining, isn't it? You'd rather not get to that stage.
yeah. And I think when a system or a process has been built to anticipate, which hopefully that's part of your risk management, if you can build, the anticipation into that process, then that's what helps deepen the connection and gives you that delivery of excellence all the time on repeat, because you hopefully conquered half of the problems before they ever happen, and your team are emotionally engaged to be able to deal with that before it ever happened. So the whole thing just rolls, if that, yeah, so
Yeah.
I just find it works really well if you use that within your risk management and your SOPs and your process building.
I think that's the thing. When we get into SOPs, we're so used to being like, and then you do this, and then but we're always thinking of it as in the treatment almost, but not actually incorporating in those emotional intelligence steps, as you say.
Yeah.
Um, Luxury seems to be evolving. What does, we're talking about this in emotional intelligence, but what does modern luxury look like from an operational view?
Well, my personal opinion is that luxury now equals intention, and it's not about excess, which
Yeah,
we're hearing more and more and more.
a
You
lot
see
more.
it all over LinkedIn and things as well. So, guest perception of what value is and what luxury is has evolved. It's definitely more around experiences, alignment with their own values as a person. Credible sustainability is huge,
Mm,
and it's more around that rather than the influx of you just throwing in extra features, more add-ons, all the gold and glitz and glam.
yeah.
It's moving
Yeah.
towards an environment, and we're already kind of there, where less
Mm,
is actually more. So slow regenerative operations where you're doing fewer things but with higher precision definitely is leveraging kind of performing better financially, environmentally, but it's also more so connecting with the modern day consumer, the people you're recruiting, your investors, and all of your other stakeholders, really. So, yeah, personally, I feel like less complexity but more clarity, and that is my definition, really, of that's what slow luxury is. It should be measurable and efficient, but it should be wrapped in emotion and like purpose-led quality. I suppose is the best way to put that forward, and that's kind of what I try to work towards when I'm, doing anything I do. So
Yeah, I think people are looking for that though, aren't they? It's like you see the increase in talk around things like breath work, music with intention, all of these elements, because I think we went through a phase of, like you say, big flashy things, that sort of massive marble thermal areas, all of that kind of thing. And I think people are going back more to nature, forest bathing, intention, aren't they? That is luxury, because it's giving them the time and the space to have thoughts, because you can continuously buy things in luxury, but what
yeah,
you can't necessarily buy is time to actually take a moment to yourself and do that genuinely. I think as well, that I think that's the other thing, is like you have the intention, but it's got to be genuine as well.
yeah, and it's like it's purposeful luxury, isn't it? And that's where the slow luxury bit falls, and it all connects together. It's all the same thing, but and I could talk about it for hours. But it is like there's so many stats out there now, proving that people are prepared to spend more if you're more conscious, if things are more intentional. That they're searching, companies, brands, uh, eco travel, green travel, all of those kind of tourism aspects as well. So it's only going to keep growing over the next 5 to 10 years. So
Yeah.
you want to really be leading it rather than being a follower, and I think it'll help as well with some of the challenges we have across the industry, which is going off topic a little bit, but like we have such heavy challenges around recruitment and retention and
Mm.
all of those things, that if you actually start to build in this emotional element into your daily operations, into your compliance, into how you operate, how you onboard people, recruit people, everything really, then you hopefully will fix some of those problems, because people, particularly the younger generation, I mean, I'm not saying I'm old because I don't feel like I am, um, but the younger wave of people coming through and starting work, that's what they're looking for. They work-life balance is highly important to them. Working with companies that align with their values is highly important to them. The sustainability aspect of things, they're more highly educated than any other generation in regards to growing up with that knowledge. So I feel it's all starting to interlink together, um, slowly but surely. And that some of the stuff I feel like we've been talking about a long time, for a lot of years, but now it's actually becoming the norm, and it's helping businesses move in the right direction, really.
And I think that's why it needs to be genuine though as well, because people will, and like you say, it's the team want to work for businesses that do this as well, don't they? They don't necessarily, so it has to be a genuine movement that the business is making to create intention and have purpose. It can't just be, we'll stick this in here because it's a trend.
Yeah, because I mean we all know we've all been in a million different businesses over the years, haven't we? And if it isn't authentic and it isn't coming from the heart and it really isn't lived and breathed every day within the business, well then you're still going to lose the people anyway, because you've sold a dream that isn't true. So
Yeah.
they're going to go look for that dream elsewhere, and that is becoming kind of more and more, I think, competitive in that part of our industry at the moment, and just generally across hospitality and service
Mm.
related jobs. So, yeah, I think if you can kind of, like I say, bring all this together and actually live and breathe it within your business, then you're onto a winning streak anyway.
Mm. But emotion feels intangible. So, I mean, I guess we're bringing this all together, but how do we go about proving its commercial impact?
And you measure it the same way that you measure everything else. through patterns, through data. So we obviously touched on this a little bit earlier, but tracking your rebooking intervals, your review sentiments, your dwell times, compare all of that against your spend. You can create sentiment dashboards, well, sentiment versus sales dashboards. So, you know, you've got two aspects to what you're measuring rather than just it always being the commercial aspect, which is
Yeah.
usually what you see within the business. You'll have two sides to it. And then by doing that, the compliance will protect consistency within the business, but those emotional drivers is what's going to, like we said earlier, protect your loyalty, drive your reviews, which ultimately increase your revenue. And it's those kind of other indicators that aren't measured as frequently that we need to kind of bring into those dashboards. And I think doing that together, you'll create more predictable performance within the business. Compliance, I mean, you know this anyway, but compliance and creativity are generally work hand in hand. They're like little partners together, but people treat them very opposite. And I think audits should ultimately, whether it's an audit, an SOP, however you're putting the compliance in, it should celebrate what's working for that business, but
Yeah.
also ask, does it connect, or does it just comply? Which does it have both elements in there? And if it's got both, that's when you can start to measure what I call like measured luxury. And I find that it's no different. People think it's going to be quite complex trying to pull this data out, but you're already doing it within the business. You do it with your financials every single day of the week,
Yeah.
every hour of the day. So it's the same metrics. You're just shifting it across to other drivers, like I say, such as, you know, your dwell time and those sorts of things. Which, yes, they're a little bit more difficult to measure. But once you start to build a backlog of data, then you've got something to work off, haven't you? So that's how you measure, I think, that more human part of the business. You've got to start
Yeah.
somewhere.
You've got to start somewhere, haven't you? It's not like you can just go in the back of your SPA system and it produces KPIs, is it? It's
No.
looking at how your business operates, I guess. And like you say, dwell time. Do you track sentiment? How do you do that? What tools do you use? It's a much bigger question, isn't it? It's
And
about analysing your business and finding the ways to
yeah,
measure it.
and in different ways. Like, you know, everyone wants good Google reviews or TripAdvisor reviews or whatever platform they use, the Net Promoter Scores. But what are you taking away from that? You know, you can take it as a whole, which most people do, you know, as a standalone comment, but you can also build cues, particularly with AI and stuff at the moment. Like, you could build cues within your sentiment scores or your review feedback to pull out keywords like, I don't know, caring or attentive. Or it could be whatever you want the words to be. You know,
Yeah.
obviously there are things out there, but if you were talking, if someone has put a review about a team member or a treatment, and you've got keywords in there that you want it to pull out, then it will do that, and then that's what your metrics come against. You know, so you build your dashboard around that, and then how do those reviews or those words lead into additional sales? Did they buy anything else? Did they rebook? Did they stay longer? What happened in that whole experience? But at the moment, your traditional KPIs are just very transactional, aren't they? So, which is easier to measure.
Yeah, and I think you also always need to be measuring both. I mean, I can give a really good example of working on working with cruise ships and having 14 cruise ships, and you see these incredible retail conversion rates, like 20, 25, 30% coming off the ships. What we then needed to do was look at the Net Promoter Score, because on the back of it, what you often found was a peak in retail sales often hit your Net Promoter Scores, because the sales techniques that were traditionally used, I'm going back quite a while, were not emotionally aware. They were not emotionally, it was much more like buy, buy, buy. People would take products and be like, I don't know what to do. You know, I didn't want to do that. I didn't feel comfortable doing it. They keep the product, so you've got a really good score on one side. Then when they get to their cabin and they're writing their review, you get hit with a bad Net Promoter Score. So I think a business always needs to be savvy and do financial, commercial KPIs alongside making sure the impact of human touch is also measured.
Yeah, I agree.
If what would your one takeaway be for spa managers? What's the one thing that you would leave? What message would you leave for everyone?
Well, I suppose the simple answer is that compliance and the commercial side of the business, did I say that right? Aren't separate. You know, they're not separate values to connection. Compliance and connection they're not competing values. They should be, like we said earlier, working very much together. And compliance will give your teams the confidence to deliver connection at scale. When you design systems and processes that respect both the structure and sensibility for the teams or the environment that you're in, you get those standards that are lived day in, day out, whether, you know, it doesn't matter who's on shift, who's in the business, who walks through the door, they're there living and breathing, like we said earlier, and they're not just going to be sat in folders in your manager's office. So I feel like have less noise, more clarity, fewer forms, have more flow. It needs to be about connection, and that is what I feel measured luxury is, and that's where the operational excellence kind of comes through as well, which is always what people are striving for, particularly within you know your luxury or your premium sectors, private members clubs, 4-5 star hotels. But you're finding that even in your little boutique clinics now, like everyone's striving for excellence of, you know, experience excellence, delivery of team excellence, whatever it is, that everyone's standards are so much higher, which is great. But without these things in place, it just starts to crumble and kind of fall apart. So yeah, I feel like that's probably my takeaway. Just interlink everything and have them both included. They don't work separately.
Yeah, compliance is key, isn't it? It's consistent, like you say, and gives confidence. The you've provided some templates that we're going to share in the community. Can you, before we go, just share a bit more detail on those, and then I can add them to the community?
Yeah, so I've done a full deck. It was a little bit more lengthy than I expected, and it just goes through. It gives through all the topics that we spoke about today in regards to how to build compliance, how to build the connection into the compliance areas of your business to, like I say, connect them and entwine them. It goes through all of kind of step-by-step process on how to guide you through doing that, what you need to be looking at, what areas of business that can be inserted into. And then there is another document that supports that document, which is more of a I suppose, inspiration type Word document. And that's really just got actual examples of exact things you can do. Because it's all right saying, you know, this is what you need to do. The other document gives you exact examples of what you can actually do within your business, if, you know, depending on the situation and kind of what business you're working within. So yeah, hopefully one goes through the journey of how to get you to interlink compliance and connection together within your properties, and the other one gives you raw examples of do this, do this, do this, to kind of make it bulletproof, I suppose. So yeah, that is what I'm going to share with you. One is, like I say, more in a PowerPoint format, and the other one is a Word document. So hopefully they can be used if you want to use them internally to train your teams or pull bits out of them to utilize on, you know, sentiment training or anything like that within the business as well. They can kind of be used however you wish to use them, and I've connected my details at the bottom, so if anyone wants any additional support, they know where to find me. I mean, you can't really miss me with my big curly hair these days, so yeah, it's how most people find me. So yeah, there'll be more to come. Like I say, I'm happy to. I'm a sharer. I'm an over talker. I just like to give give people support and help and guidance where they can, and hopefully they can learn from my mistakes. So it makes life a little bit easier for everyone coming through.
Oh, I think it's really good to do this, because quite often you'll go in, you do your SOPs, you do your compliance, and then you just leave it, don't you? So hopefully, the end of this, someone's gone, oh, I'm going to go and recheck. That would be really key, wouldn't it? If you're go away, have a look at the template, and goes back in and just does an audit of their business, that would
Yeah,
be a winner.
and I think just go into the manager's office. It doesn't matter again whether it's the hotel manager, the spa manager, wherever you are in your business, and just see has it got a layer of dust on it. Like, when was the last time that folder was taken out? Or when was the last time someone clicked into it if it's digital? Those sorts of things. Because
Yeah.
if it's been a year, 6 months, whatever, then it's not living and breathing within the business unless you can see, with your own eyes, that actually everything in those SOPs are just happening because it is kind of operationally functioning within your business. If everyone's just doing their own thing or making their own version of it, that's great, but it doesn't build the consistency and the rhythm and kind of the brand standards that most larger businesses are looking towards, or businesses that wanting to scale up. So
Mm.
yeah, just go look at your folder and see when it was last read, used,
Dust it
opened.
off.
Um, and yeah, and then start again. Like say, a lot of it actually, and most businesses that I kind of work with, it isn't about reinventing the wheel. They've all got great templates, great processes in place. 90% of it's all working smoothly. It's just those emotional connections being built into those templates, and then obviously there's a retraining aspect, but it actually empowers teams, I think. And when I've worked with teams and delivered it this way, you tend
Mm.
to find that they feel like they've got more autonomy, they feel liberated, because yes, there is the SOP and that hasn't gone anywhere necessarily, or there is the audit and that hasn't gone anywhere, or whatever it is. But they know that they're empowered to do it their way,
Yeah.
in their style, with their personality and their take on it. And that works very well. It used to work very well for me when I worked in Europe, because you could be working for a brand, as I was, where you're in multiple different countries, but you have to have a standard and you have to have that compliance element so that it represents your brand, which the more international companies will relate to. So, but if you have it, like say, stuck in stone, and no one's reading anything, and it's just stuck in a
Mm.
file, and then they're getting told off when they're not doing things properly, or whatever, it kind of breaks down that energy and the positive vibe of being at work, and wanting to deliver to your best potential. As if you can have that and then flip it and flex it and let them bring their own character and culture, particularly when it's international, into that rhythm, then you tend to find work's more fun. Everyone's happy. The customers love it because it's localized. It actually makes sense to them regionally.
Yeah.
And like I say, those things all add up to those commercial metrics, because that's where the money comes in.
Mm. And also it means they have a baseline, doesn't it? Everyone then has a baseline, everyone knows what that is. And then if
Yeah.
you want to, or allowed to be more creative, you can be more creative that way then, can't you?
Yeah, and it helps with movement as well. People can move from A to B, country to country. There's lots of internal benefits to it as well, as consumer benefits. So yeah,
Mm.
we'll see. Let's see what happens.
Oh, well, hopefully we'll load, well, not hopefully, we will load the templates in, and hopefully they provide some help for people just to refresh and have a look at those compliance standards. Katie, thank you so much for your time. I super appreciate it. I will share our webinar and put the templates up. Thank you so much.
It's all right, Sarah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.